Okay, so coming back to the image that we've just created here using the pen tool to generate our shapes and organising them into the group folder here. We're just going to look at different ways of adding more layers and adding a wee bit more depth to the image that we've created here. So what I've did is I've created a copy of the stock layer, and to do that, remember, I just select the layer, right click, and I can create a duplicate layer. Now with this selected, and you'll notice it's selected because I can see the outline of the path there. What I'll do is I'll just zoom in. I'm going to change the fill colour to a kind of lighter shade of brown. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, using my path selection, my direct selection tool, I'm going to just pull these nodes in. And you'll notice now that what I'm doing is I'm seeing underneath it, I'm seeing the original stock that I'd created. Okay, and that can allow me to, I can edit this path however I want, using the direct selection tool to remove these anchor points to suit. And it will allow me to create a wee bit more depth. I'm just going to hold down the Alt key here so that I can move that anchor point and try and create, undo that, sorry, here's my command. Sorry, I don't know why that's moving everything here. I need to just go back to the path here, select that one anchor point, yep, there we go, and I can move it to suit. Okay, so when I click off of this and zoom out, there's that kind of lighter tone, that highlight I've generated on the stock, and the same thing could be applied to any other part of the image. What I'll do is I'll go to the apple body here. Now I don't want that selected, so I'm just going to deselect that at the moment and start creating this shape. What I'm going to do is just try and generate a shadow of the leaf sitting on top of the apple, so just very subtle. What I'm going to do is use the pen tool for this, and I'm going to create a shape. The fill colour, I'm just going to use this darker shade of red that I previously used earlier on for this point here. So I'm just going to click, and I'll go down here and click and drag, try and follow the line of the leaf. And again, this is going to be hidden by the leaf, so I'm just going to come up and close it. Now you'll notice that it isn't hidden by the leaf, but that's just because the layer has appeared here. Okay, so I'm just going to call that leaf shadow. Okay, and what I can do then is just move that, cancel that, sorry, move it underneath the leaf, and I can come back with my direct selection tool, select and edit the path. Okay, what I'm going to do here is just hold down my Alt so that I'm controlling only that anchor point, and what I might do is just bring this out very slightly. Okay, again, if I click off of that and just use deselect all, so you can see what I've done there. Similarly, I can go back and drop the opacity of that layer, just making that a wee bit more subtle. Or if I wanted, I could select it, go up here and change this and apply perhaps a gradient fill. Okay. Now the other thing that we could look at doing is, if you wish to create an outline around any of the shapes that you're creating, you could have done that. We could have done that at the very beginning. You have that option up here to create both your fill and your stroke, but I can do that retrospectively. I can go back, so I now have the apple selected, and here you'll notice I can select a stroke. So I'm going to select here and just click on black to create a black outline, and here is my weighting of it in points. Okay, so I'm going to take that down and make it 5, see what that looks like. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm now going to apply that to the other shapes, so I'll apply that to the stock here. So again, use my direct selection tool to edit the path. I'm going to go up here to stroke, select that, and again change that to 5 so that it's the same as the stroke that I've generated around about the apple. And I notice here that that's because of the problems I was having earlier on with generating this highlight. I might need to go back to the stock path. I'm going to select the path itself, and I can use my arrow keys, and I'm just going to bring that into the inside, and if needs be, go in here with my direct selection tool and edit some of these points to bring them inside the stroke that I've created. Okay, similarly I can apply that to the leaf here. So using my direct selection tool, I have the leaf selected. I can go up to the stroke here, put it on black, edit to 5, oops, sorry, change it to 5, hit enter, and I've started creating an outline. Okay, now the technique applied here with the highlight on the stalk, I'm going to try something slightly different for the leaf to just add some details in. So I'm going to, this time, use the pen tool to create a path. Okay, and once I've generated that path, similar to the videos I showed you earlier on, I'll find that worked path in here. I can create a new layer and then turn that into a stroke and apply a colour to it. So I'm going to start off with the point up here, and I'm going to bring it to here, and I'll create this kind of centre run down the leaf. Okay, I'm going to come in with my command key and edit this anchor point, just curve it with the Bezier handle. I've got something like that. Okay, so there's my path, which you'll notice is here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new layer here, and this is going to be the inside of that leaf. Now, what I can do is I can right click on this path and generate a stroke path, and what's going to happen is that's going to try and replicate any strokes that I may have for my brush or my pencil, and I'll show you that in a wee second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush first of all and set it up so I'm happy with it. Now, I've been using 5 points for the surrounding stroke. I'm going to go with something just slightly similar, right? Try that with 7 points, 7 pixels at the moment, and see what that looks like. And next I need to select my colour. Now, if I'm right in saying this should be a slightly darker shade of green to the body of the leaf, so use that and go back to this path. So I've got it selected, right click on it, stroke path. It's going to ask me, do I want to select the brush or any other tool? I'm going to happy to do the brush because as I've just shown you, I've set that up okay. Hit OK, and it applies that stroke to that path. Okay, so we can just click off of that to deselect it, and I could continue to do that for any of these kind of details within the leaf, and you see that starting to come together. Okay, so I might name that as leaf detail. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the apple body, and if I double click on the layer, I have my layer style options, and this is where I could apply something like a drop shadow. Now, quite often people will tick this wee box to apply a drop shadow, which is exactly what it does, but what I want to do is click on here, similar to when you're selecting a layer, so that it's highlighted in blue and I get these properties, these options. I'm just going to change the angle so you can see this. If I start adjusting the distance, you'll see this drop shadow coming through. I can play about with the spread, okay, and the size. I can also adjust the layer blend mode, which we'll talk a wee bit more about soon enough. I'll start dropping the opacity down, just so it's a nice subtle shadow. If I hit OK, that's now been applied to that object, and what I'll do is just use my move tool just to select off of that, and you'll notice that drop shadow is put in place. I could do the same thing with the leaf, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to double click on layer style, go to drop shadow. Now, what it will have done is it's kept the angle the same, because for lighting purposes, if you're generating a shadow and you're using it on any other layers, it's going to try and replicate that to make it a bit more realistic. The only thing I'm going to have to tweak or change would be, you know, the size, and I would want that perhaps similar to the object or what I've generated on the apple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to come back down here to the apple, and if I right click on this layer, I have the option to copy layer style. So when I go to my leaf and right click on that layer, I can go to paste layer style, and it's just going to paste the exact same properties that I have on the layer style for the apple, on the body of the apple, and it's applied it now to the leaf. We can start to see that building up now, and it's starting to produce a bit more kind of level of detail and tone to the overall image that we've created.